All right. Well, hey, it's been a very busy day to be a podcaster, and it's been a very busy couple of days for the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, as you well know, had an epic showdown against the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington and came away with a major victory, but it wasn't without a major cost. The Detroit Lions lost their number one defensive end, Aiden Hutchinson. And since that time, the Lions have gone ahead and extended Alim McNeill. So big news coming out of Detroit just about 30 minutes or so ago is that defensive tackle Alim McNeill has agreed to a 4-year contract extension. And what that extension may look like, I'm gonna give it to you here in just a second. Let me make sure I get my ads turned off so I don't have ads on my screen. But yeah, what a perfect time. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts and analysis on this and why I think it's happening now. May or may not make sense, but at least it's a thought. But according to this writer here, Shireen Williams, Alim McNeill is going to agree to a $97 million contract extension. This is according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Media and his report that it has got a $55 million guarantee. So Alim McNeill is agreeing to a 4-year, $97 million contract with a $55 million guarantee. This is huge. I expected Alim McNeill to be in that $20 million range when it came time to get a deal done. Well, he did a little bit better than that. He is pulling in $24.25 million with this contract extension. And dare we say that the Detroit Lions defensive front is starting to look pretty scary for many years to come. We still have Broderick Martin coming up, and still a lot of time for him to get ready, but he should be back pretty soon. So what does it mean? What does this type of a signing mean right now for the Detroit Lions? Why are the Lions doing this right now? We know early in this spring that Brad Holmes has said that he met with Alim McNeill's camp at least on 2 occasions. They had conversations, and they really weren't going anywhere. Alim McNeill was asked multiple times by reporters, hey, is there any, thoughts on an extension here? When is it going to get done? And Alim said, I don't want anything to do with it. That's why I have an agent. I'll let them handle it. But this entire time, we really haven't heard much. Everything has been kind of going on behind the scenes. But this is my thought. Why is it happening today? Well, I think there's a couple of things going on. Number one, I'm not saying that Brad Holmes is panicking. But when you look at something like this, I think people are going to initially think they're panicking. They just lost Aiden Hutchinson. We can't lose Alim McNeill right now. And they wouldn't right now. But in the free agency period, after this season, there is that potential. There was also some conversation that came out last night that I spoke about on the morning show this morning, that the Steelers are potentially trying to poach Levi Onwuzurike once he hits free agency. And with that information being piped in right now during the season, you better believe that their agents are looking at those things, parking those things, and being ready, to start having conversations. Because right now you can have conversations. At least the agents, they can talk to whoever they want. And so if there's any information that's coming down that, hey, you've got a really good opportunity to get a bag over in Pittsburgh. Well, I think the Lions need to do something now to make sure that Alim is at least here for the foreseeable future. So that's part of it, right? Maybe, maybe not. At least that's one idea. The other idea is the Lions simply just don't want to lose Alim. They love what he does. He's a perfect Detroit Lion. Always has been. The guy's a hard worker. He exudes everything, grit, everything, culture. He is Detroit. He's everything that the Detroit Lions want: a defensive tackle, a player, a human, a teammate, a leader. He's it. And now that the Lions have lost Aiden Hutchinson, and you don't know what Aiden is going to be when he comes back, we are hoping that he is going to be the same player. But I hate to say it, that is usually hardly the truth. There's always going to be something a little bit different about that player when they come back. If anybody can get back to the same way they played before, it is Aiden Hutchinson. He will be able to get his body back and right. The only thing that he's up against is the nerve impact. And if the nerves are going to regenerate, If there is any nerve damage, we just don't know. So I'm willing to bet right now that Brad Holmes is trying to keep this nucleus together as much as possible before it becomes a problem in free agency next year. And this is just another, another opportunity for Alim to walk into the new week going up against the Vikings, a new man. We've seen what happened to David Montgomery in this, game against the Cowboys. He walked right in the first drive and just scored a touchdown. He was dragging players with him because he was so hyped up and full of energy, signing that contract. And so now we need a big performance out of Alim McNeill. And again, I'm not saying that Brad Holmes did this so that it would, pump up Alim McNeill, but hey, I'm just saying that could happen. Alim could have a little extra pep in his step. He's going to be a very, very, very rich man here at the end of this season. The other thing that came to mind here is maybe Brad Holmes is trying to figure out how much money he has. Okay, Alim's done. We can write that one off now. We know how much that's going to cost us. Penei Sewell's done. Jared Goff's done. Amon-Ra St. Brown is done. DJ Reader is signed for next year. Amik Robertson is signed for next year. We've got Terrian and Rakestraw next year. Well, who's next? Well, if Yatu Melifonu's on IR, he would have to be next. Kirby Joseph, I believe, is signed through next year. Let me just pull up the Lions depth chart or contracts. He's probably trying to figure out just how much money he has to play with in 2025. And given the fact that, there's potential that the Lions need to bring in, another big hitter here for a defensive end to get through the rest of the season. And once he figures out how much money he really has, he can start to negotiate away either the future, be it, draft picks, whether it's 25 or 26 draft capital in a trade situation, or having to take in a pretty big contract. And in all of those things, he needs to know what he's working with. He needs to know who he has on this team right now that are going to be signed, through the foreseeable future. Is it making a little bit of sense yet? Because I think that that's more of the issue here. I think that that's what Brad Holmes really wants to know. I'm trying to find Kirby Joseph's contract here. Yeah, he should be signed because he was what, drafted in 22, I think. So he should be signed. He was on a 4-year deal. Yeah, he's signed through 25. So Kirby's good. So the back end of our defense is good. So the next player that I feel that could get an extension, probably Carlton Davis. He was open to signing an extension. Brad Holmes was asked about having the opportunity to sign him to an extension. Would they do it right away? Prior to him even playing a snap for the Lions. And Brad Holmes says, yeah, there's not a rush to do it. But I would say, man, look, he's been playing great. And he is to everything that I feel like the Lions want in a player and a leader and a teammate. He's played a hell of a season so far. And yes, update on Carlton. He did pass concussion protocol. He's not going to miss any time. He's doing great. Shout out to everybody in the chat that's joining us right now. I don't know how many people are in. I don't have it all open. Let me get it open here. Looks like we got 82 people in. Everybody welcome in. So if you're just now joining, Alim McNeill is agreed to a 4-year, what is roughly a $97 million contract extension, which is going to make him a Detroit Lion now, at least through 2028. So all of these contracts are starting to blend together. And if you haven't noticed that too, all of these players are together through at least 2027, which is huge. The core of this team is together for a very long time, along with the rookies that we just brought in. So back to what I was just saying. Once you figure out how much money you have, now you can start to leverage the future a little bit if you felt it was necessary to replace Aiden Hutchinson's production. And I say that word production because you could never replace Aiden Hutchinson. You never could. Matter of fact, you could never replace any player. You could try to replace some of their production, and that's about it. Aiden is a different man. He's a different animal. He's a rare breed. And I apologize about my lineup. It's wrong. I don't have the right scene up for some reason. Let me see if I can get it changed here. Oh, that's the wrong one still. I don't think it matters. Who cares, right? I didn't have anything ready to go. So I guess at the end of the day, we're looking at all these players that are signed right now, and we've got a really good nucleus. So Jared Goff's good to go. Taylor Decker got signed. Penei Sewell's good to go. We know DJ Reader's signed through next year. Amon-Ra's good to go. J-Mo's still got a couple seasons left. Carlton Davis is somebody that I feel you might want to extend right now. Just get it done. You might want to bring Marcus Davenport back, and I'm not saying you're going to want to do that right now, but who's to say that, the Lions, wouldn't go ahead and just do that, and try to figure out what it would take to bring him back. Coming off of an injury, obviously that price is going to be a little bit lower, or it could be roughly the same as what they paid. We've got Frank Ragnow at least through next year. Jared Goff is good, of course. Aiden should be able to come back next year and play. Hopefully everything goes well. So my next question is, what about Alex Anzalone? I thought that he is nearing the end of his contract that he signed with the Lions. And let's take a look. So Alex Anzalone is signed through 2025, so he's good to go. It's all great news. All of this is great news, right? So it's not just Alim McNeill signing this contract. It's everybody on this team that is going to be around for the foreseeable future. They are betting on themselves. They are betting on this team. And they're sending a message to everybody right now. Look, you play well, you put the work in, you're going to stick around, and we're going to take care of you the best way we can. Here's another thing for you to think about. We wouldn't be in this situation right now had Brad Holmes spent lavishly and brought in the Chase Young, his deal wasn't that big. Let's just go the other direction. The Danielle Hunters, right? The Bosas, the Parsons, the Trey Hendrickson, which is still a possibility. I wouldn't be so mad about Trey Hendrickson. I think that one kind of makes pretty good sense. I don't know what his whole deal is right now, his contract terms, and I haven't spent enough time to look, but we wouldn't be in this situation had Brad Holmes just went out and spent a bunch of money and brought in the highest paid players, to fill these other positions. If we would have brought in, let's just say we would have brought in Danielle Hunter, at 25, he would have wanted $30 million because of the tax situation. And then let's say he gets hurt. Well, now we're out that player. And then Aiden gets hurt. We're out that player. We don't have any money. We don't have any money to go in and extend Alim McNeill. We don't have any money to go in and extend Taylor Decker probably. So we're going to start losing players that we need. But right now we are in a very good situation where we have the money to be able to do the things that we need to do as a team, right? I'm just a fan. I use we very loosely. But right now the Lions have $28 million in overall cap space. Now, Alim McNeill's money isn't going to touch this year, right? That has nothing to do with this year. Signing bonuses, depending on how they lay out the contract, this will all probably hit in the new year, which will be in 2025. Again, I don't know the contract. We don't know what it says. But I would bet that it's all going to hit in 2025. And I'm sure there'll be some void years in there so that they can kind of kick the can, down the road a little bit. And Jared Goff's big money, that doesn't really hit until like 2026. So he doesn't start getting a real big chunk until then. So that means between now and next year, the Lions have this window of opportunity. And I will state this again right now, as I've stated in the other shows that I've done today. I firmly believe your Detroit Lions are going to be drafting a defensive end in the first round next year. At the latest, the second round. It's always been part of my plan, my path. I developed this system called roster roulette. And this next season is when it makes sense. You brought Aiden Hutchinson in 2022. At the moment that you would have been able to extend him, which would have been next season, You would have had to supplement that with a backup pick in another high pick defensive end. Now, the Lions are going to be picking towards the back end. Hopefully, that's the plan of the first round. But Brad Holmes is probably going to try to move up a little bit and get us a high-quality defensive end. But that's not going to be a huge contract. You're talking, what, 25, 30 million all in over, 4 or 5 seasons. That's not going to break the bank. So you've got an expensive defensive end in Aiden Hutchinson, who would have been extended this next season had he not got injured. Now I expect that he's going to play out his rookie contract, and they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, is what I'm expecting the Lions are going to do. There's no need to extend him now. You have to make sure that he's going to become the same player that he was before you go in and invest heavily. It's not a slap, in the face to him. It's not, you're not being mean about it if that's what Brad Holmes intends to do. It's just the way that the business operates. Why would you just go out and hand a guy a $150 million check if you don't even know if he can play yet? That would just be stupid. I don't think any general manager would do something like that. Yeah, sure, Hutch is a great dude, but injuries happen all the time. Players come in and out of this league all the time. And right now, we have to make sure that Aiden can come back and play at a high level, is what I would be saying to myself and my team, management and everything else. We have to know what he has in the tank before we can heavily invest in him. And that sucks, because I don't even like talking about that stuff after such a major injury, right? But it's part of the conversation. So when I look at this roster right now, and you look at the players, I'm going to look at 2025 specifically. We have Jared Goff, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Aiden Hutchinson, Penei Sewell, Alex Anzalone, David Montgomery. Now, David Montgomery is going to be here through at least 2028. DJ Reader, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. Carlton Davis is on a void year, so he's going to be somebody that we're going to want to get, re-signed. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Fox, Marcus Davenport is under a void year, so there's a conversation potentially maybe to be had to bring him back next year. Jack Campbell, Khalif Raymond, Amik Robertson, Jalen Reeves-Maben, Graham Glasgow, Terrion Arnold, Sam Laporta, Josh Pascal, Brian Branch, Brock Wright, which we know just signed a 3-year deal, Kirby Joseph, he'll be on his last year, Hendon Hooker, Broderick Martin, Ennis Rakestraw, Malcolm Rodriguez will be, I think that's his last year, I think, under contract. Kobe Sorsdahl, Giovanni Manu, Sione Vaki, Jake Bates, Makai Wingo, Christian Mahogany. So we start getting into, a lot of the rookies here at the tail end of this. Isaiah Williams, Lawrence Strickland, Hogan Hatton, Antoine Green, and Nate Lynn. So Antoine Green, I think he's just on this list. I don't think he's actually on the roster right now. The point that I'm trying to make is that's a pretty solid start to the season, right? We have 40 contracts right now locked up, actually 38. We have 38 contracts locked up to start the season. That's probably the most contracts I've ever seen for the Detroit Lions to start a season before free agency. Now the top 51 count, and you've got to fit in 53. So that means that the Lions are 15 contracts away from having a full roster. And if we get 6 or 7 draft picks, that means we're 8 or 9, players away in free agency based on the players that we have now on this year's roster and free agency to round out our top 53. The Lions are in great shape. And I think that Brad Holmes is trying to figure out, like I said, how much money we have left. He has left. The team has left to make something happen. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow morning on the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We start at 8 a.m. and at 9 a.m. Jared Eisenlohr is going to join the show, and we're going to be discussing multiple trade targets and candidates to help fill in for the production that Aiden Hutchinson is leaving behind. Let me shout out the chat. Let's see who we got with us tonight. We've got Lions Talk by Chat Sports. Hey, what's happening there, Kimber? We got Peter Van Larhoven. We've got Mike P. We got Sebastian Chose. We got Jay Cruisin' or Just Cruisin'. Who else is in here tonight? We got James Burgess. We got the Big Moose, 88. What did I put? Vikings up there at 6-0? Oh, well. I'll change it. Thanks for pointing that out, Big Moose. Keeping me in check. I see how it is. We got Steve K in the house. We've got DJ. We got Michael Shembry in the house tonight. Who else is in here today? We got Steven Schaff. What's up, brother? How you doing? Who else is in here? Carlos Laralde. So, again, you guys tell me in the chat or in the comments, how excited are you for Alim McNeill? Do you guys feel like the Lions just made a perfect move at the right time? You know, Y for yes, N for no. Perfect move? Yes. Maybe they could have waited? No. You let me know, because right now I feel like it was a perfect move. Perfect timing. Larry Williams, what's happening? How you doing? Josh Jackson. Laurie King. Yeah, I'm really excited too, man. He's been playing well. And let me throw this out to you guys. Yesterday or Sunday, would you believe that we had more interior pressure in that game than we did exterior pressure? You believe it? Because it happened. We counted it up this morning. I think we had 12 or 13 interior pressures with the defensive tackles out of a total of 24 pressures on the day, 5 of which came from Aiden Hutchinson, and his last one was a sack. The rest of them came from Alex Anzalone and the linebackers and the DBs. And the one thing that I want to kind of get across to people is my whole take on how the defense is going to operate until and if the Lions fill in these defensive end positions, is you're going to see more of what we saw yesterday or Sunday. You're going to see more interior pressure on the quarterback, which you guys know how I feel. That's always been the way to the quarterback. And you're going to get sprinkles now of linebacker blitz and DB blitzes probably more often. Maybe not so much sprinkles, but probably more often, because you're going to be asking those ends that are not Aiden to contain. Just do your job. You don't necessarily have to get after the quarterback on every play. You just have to make sure that the quarterback can't get outside, and the running backs, you've got to shut them down. If the Lions just continue to shut down the run game, we're going to be okay. That is the only thing that matters right now. Just shut down the run game and we'll be okay. Because then we can go back to doing what we're doing in the back end. And we saw our best game of the season for those DBs. They finally woke up. Terry and Arnold had a very clean game. We need more of that. As long as we start to get that play from the DBs, season's fine. I know it sucks being, without Aiden right now, but I'm telling you, this defense is okay. We are deep enough. That doesn't mean that we're going to have, this super flashy player that's doing spin moves on the outside and, creating tons of pressure. And you guys know how I feel about pressure. I feel like some of those pressure stats are, they're a little gaudy. I think that we count pressures a little too easily. I'd personally only count pressures that are under 2.5 seconds, because that's really doing something. Like, that's really affecting the quarterback. For instance, I'll throw this stat at you. Jared Goff, according to Next Gen Stats, only had 2.67 seconds of time to throw versus the Cowboys. Didn't you guys feel like he had all day? Like, he had all day, it felt like, to throw the ball. I mean, shit, 3-4 guys touched the ball on a double reverse flea flicker. That had to be a 5-second play before he threw that ball. 4 seconds, probably. I didn't time it up. But 2.67 seconds is what he had in week 6 to throw. So, just saying, if it's not 2.5 seconds or less, I don't really know if it's affecting the quarterback that much. I can tell you it's probably not. I'd rather see the hands get up and bat a ball down versus, other things. So, we're all upset that Sewell's touchdown got denied. He can blame his offensive line for that, but that was a terrible call by the refs. That was a missed call. Mike P says, did you see how well Pascal played on all 22's breakdown? No, I haven't watched it yet. But like I've been saying, you got Mike, you've heard me. I said that Pascal was going to be fine. He played his first game in week 4, being dedicated to the end position. And I think he parked like a 67 or 76. Maybe I got the numbers reversed. PFF grade. And I know PFF is not the end all be all, but I'm taking the stats that matter from PFF. And that grade was pretty wholesome. And then you base it on the tape that we watched together last week, Saturday, and you could see that, that he had a pretty good game. The more and more he gets time, the better and better he's going to get. And I bet you right now he's probably trying to cut a little weight, which is hard to do during the season, but he's just going to have to eat, a little bit fewer calories, except on the night before and the day of game day, where he's going to have to go heavy on carbs. So he could probably shed a few pounds and get a little bit twitchier, a little bit quicker. And midway through the season, he'll be cooking. Pascal's going to be fine. I think so. Really, we just need to settle up on one edge position right now. And to be honest with you, it could be another DT. We might bring in another DT that can get after the quarterback. And to my point earlier, maybe we go heavier on our defensive tackle packages. We get a little heavier up front and we start to fire those DBs. As long as we control the front and we don't allow them to do anything in the run game, we can really get unique in the scheme. Here's my final point. This is now going to force Aaron Glenn to really pay attention to the details. He doesn't have the luxury of having a guy that he knows in Aiden Hutchinson that's going to provide pressure, right? That offenses are going to have to scheme against. Now offenses are going to be like, well, we've got an opening now. We don't have to, put 2 or 3 assets towards Aiden Hutchinson's side of the football anymore. But they can't forget about Alim McNeill, and they can't forget about DJ Reader. And now they're going to realize you can't forget about Josh Pascal. And now you've also got Jack Campbell, who the Lions really haven't done a whole lot with in the blitz game. Don't forget, Jack Campbell at Iowa was a game wrecker. He can get after the quarterback. But I think that this is going to give AG another opportunity to show just how good he really is. Let's not forget that in 2021, he didn't have any personnel. In 2022, he barely had any personnel at all. You added Aiden to the mix. You added Levi. You added, Alim and those players that were there. You still didn't have a plethora of opportunity on the defensive back end or on the defensive front. Even in 2023, we had terrible defensive backs. He still couldn't do what he wanted to do, and he still did just enough to control the line of scrimmage and to shut down the run game. So, if anything, we know that AG has been able to work with less throughout the majority of his career as a Detroit Lion. And now this team is so deep that he's working really with a lot more than we think. This is going to give AG an opportunity to dial up some schemes, change up the scheme just a little bit to be more effective. And that's what I expect him to do. That's what great coordinators will do. And I expect between him and Terrell Williams and the rest of the defensive coordinators and positional coaches, they're going to come up with some good schemes that doesn't, totally revolutionize what the Lions have been doing, thus far throughout the season, but just a little bit more unique to dial in the details, to get after the quarterback still, to maintain our rush lanes, and make it a headache for, the opponent every game day. So that's really all I wanted to bring in today is, man, huge congratulations to Alim McNeill. I am so happy that the Lions are doing something that we've never really expected them to do, and that is to get contracts done throughout the season. We've never really done it with Brad Holmes. It's just not something that any team likes to do. Contract negotiations are tough, but when you keep the player out of it, it makes it a little bit easier. And we're seeing now the benefit of having an extremely savvy and intelligent and trustworthy general manager in Brad Holmes and making all of the right moves at the right time. The checkbook is now open. I think that now that we understand that Alim McNeill is here for the foreseeable future, and it's only $25 million a year only. It's going to give him a good gauge on what he can afford, who he can afford, and how he's going to be able to attack it. Final point. So in 2025, before Alim McNeill's contract hits this number, the Lions had about $77 million available next year. 77. That's with everybody's contract right now. That's the top 40. So you're going to have to add, 11 contracts to that, which is probably going to drop that number, closer to 60, probably 60 million. And then after Alim McNeill's, contract hits, probably going to drop it closer to 45 or 48 million is my guess right now. That's a ton of money. Our rookie deals after the draft is only going to cost us about $10 to $12 million. Since we're not picking up in the front, of the draft, we're picking at the back end, it's about half as much as what they were spending in 21 and 22, which, is closer to $17, $18 million, for draft time. So the Lions are going to have plenty of money. And that number does not include the expected bump in salary cap, which is expected to be about another $20 to $25 million again this season in 25. So there's going to be a ton of money. The Lions are going to be able to do whatever they want. And that's because your general manager, Brad Holmes, has been extremely intelligent and smart about buying players in the dollar bins. Like, everyone else tries to say he's the dollar store general. Thank you, Brad Holmes. Thank you for being a dollar store general, because we are in the position of almost going to Super Bowls, winning playoff games, and have an extremely loaded roster now because of how you've managed this team and this team's salary cap so well. So thank you, Brad Holmes. I don't think he's done anything wrong in that situation. I think he's done just about everything he can do, and he's done it right, as much as we would expect. So that's it. That's right. Let Brad cook. I'm expecting more in the next 24 to 48 hours. 3 weeks left for the trade deadline, and I'm sure we'll see something. But don't expect big names just yet. Doesn't mean that they won't come. Doesn't mean that they're not being talked about. But I think that we're going to find out tomorrow, that there's plenty of second tier options available that do make sense, that can help us win. And I think that, again, with AG being able to dial in and really figure out the defense moving forward, that is going to be the biggest play, because you cannot replace Aiden Hutchinson. I don't care who you bring in. Well, unless it's Myles Garrett, right? Yeah, then you could help replace what Aiden's been doing. But that's about it. Trey Hendrickson's not going to replace what Aiden was doing. And sacks aren't everything. And I think you guys realize that now, that we can win games without sacks. We absolutely have done it this season. And we can continue to do it. It's just play disciplined. Play disciplined football. You win football games. That's how it goes. All right, y'all, take care. We'll see y'all in the morning at 8 a.m. And the Rise and Grind morning show will be rocking and rolling. And Jared Eisenlohr is going to join us around 9 a.m. And we're going to lay it all out. And then Thursday, we're going to get into the Vikings. And then I should note tonight, we should have the Vikings podcast coming on this week. Hopefully, we're going to do a crossover pod with a couple of Vikings podcasters. Pretty good at what they do. Should be an interesting conversation, and hopefully I'll lock that up tonight, and we'll be ready for it. So join us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., or you get just to rewatch it later if you don't have time in the morning. Either way, I'll be here. Will you? You guys take care. Have a good night. And enjoy the theme song. This is my custom theme song for the Lions.
Rock the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows we'll stand as one, a legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together